Yeah. All right, I call this meeting to, whoa, feedback. I get you. All right, good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Human Relations Committee meeting. Please be advised that there is an agenda, copies of the agenda will be available online as well as in the front area. I will now ask the Principal Management Analyst to take attendance by roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Committee Member Lester. Here. Committee Member McDonald. Committee Member Smith is absent. Committee Member Sylvester.
Yep.
Committee Member Webb.
Present.
Vice Chair Chadwell. And Chair Poicone.
Here. Thank you. Item 3, minutes approval. The minutes for the June 5th, 2025 regular meeting has been delivered to the committee members and posted on City Hall bulletin board. If there are no corrections or additions, a motion is in order to approve these minutes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, and that's majority. Item 4, oral communications from the public. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda. There will be an opportunity for the public comment during item 6.1 for comment specifics to that item. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to make their comments. State law prohibits the committee from acting on agenda items. For those attending the meeting via Zoom, please use the raised hand function or press *9 on your phone to make a comment on any item not on the agenda. The committee will receive in-person comments first. Seeing none online, there are none. Moving on to item 5. Civic Participation Ad Hoc Committee. The Civic Participation Ad Hoc Committee will present an oral update. No action will be taken on this item.
I thought it was you. Am I wrong?
I can do it. So the Civic Participation Ad Hoc Committee has welcomed Chair Poicone in Molly's absence. So far, what we've done is I'm pretty sure, finalized our list of local organizations that we want to connect with. And we originally had set a goal meeting with at least 3 organizations in the month of June, but something that we ended up finding was that a lot of organizations kind of take a summer recess or don't have regular meetings during the summer months. And so from that meeting, we've set the goals of putting together the spreadsheet, which has now been completed. And I think most of the organizations have regular meeting dates listed next to them. So we've kind of built that infrastructure so that we can hit the ground running in terms of actually going out and talking to people. We do have our finalized questions. That's something that we've had for a couple of months now. And so now it's just over the next month. I think we're reconvening in the beginning of September to kind of go over what we heard from local organizations. So we're going to be spending the rest of July and the month of August going out and talking to those organizations that are on our list, and hopefully we'll get some good feedback from that.
Thank you, Committee Member Lester. I open, is there any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. I open the floor for public comment. If there are attendees, seeing none, both in person and online, we'll move on to item 6. Public hearing.
If I may have a point of order, I think should say new business for item number 6.
Okay,
My apologies.
no worries. And I will move business to item 6.
I'm sorry, item 6 is titled new business, not public hearing.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6, new business. Item 6.1, Mountain View Police Department 2024 annual report. The committee will receive an information update from the Mountain View Police Department. No action will be taken on this item. Police Chief Michael Canfield will provide the presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
See that here. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Michael. Well, welcome. It's nice to see everyone and hopefully folks watching virtually. I'm Mike Canfield. I'm Mountain View Police Department's Police Chief. It is my pleasure to present our 2024 annual report. This is by no means a complete summary of everything that our department and officers have done in the year, but it is a good high-level overview and touches on things that are very significant for the police department as well as for our community. I am very proud of the work that was done during the year, during 2024, by our staff, proud of their commitment to public safety, their commitment to the community, and to ensuring that we have police services in a community for all. And I am grateful to have the opportunity to share with you this annual report. This is the first showing of the annual report, so it has not been, although it is in your agenda, of course. It is not on our website yet, and we have not distributed it with our community partners, but our next step after it is reviewed by the HRC this evening will be to make it public, further public for everyone in the community. We house these annual reports on our city webpage, but we'll also utilize our social media channels to share this, as well as just emailing the document to our community partners, and we have many community partners email distribution lists. And with that, we'll advance our slides. Today, this evening, I'll be going over department demographics overview, talk a little bit about our calls for service at the police department, some crime trend updates, as well as an overview of our professional standards unit and some division updates from the police department. Following that, I'll take any questions or comments and give it back to the chair. So looking at our department demographics, you can see that the Mountain View Police Department is a diverse workforce, much like our city. Our officers speak many languages, some as their first languages, Cantonese, Japanese, Spanish, Vietnamese, just to name a few. Currently, we have 9 different languages spoken by the Mountain View Police Department. Sorry, that's 2024. I think we're at 11 now, but I want to bury the lead, and we'll see in the 2025 annual report. But I think we're at 11. But it is reflective of the diverse workforce that we have. And that is something that we value significantly. We recruit and hire the best possible people in that come across my table, and that's something that I take very seriously and have a very heavy weight on that burden or responsibility to pick the best people to safeguard and to ensure that we continue to demonstrate the very best of the Mountain View Police Department and the work that we do. When you look at our demographics, you can see that we currently have about 15% female officers and about 70% of our professional staff. So what we often refer to as non-sworn department members, so non-officers are female. That demographic has upticked on the officer side. It was at about 10 to 11% over the last 5 years, and we've seen a steady but modest increase to have a more gender diverse officer sworn rank. You can see by the demographics on the graph, there's the demographics on the left are our police department's personnel, and on the right of the pie chart is the city of Mountain View's demographics. And those and some characteristics or some aspects mirror pretty similarly. Our white or Caucasian demographic is almost identical, 48%. Our Hispanic or Latino demographic, we actually have a higher percentage at the police department at 26% compared to the reported about 18% in the community. Our AAPI, our Asian American Pacific Islander population at the police department is almost at 8%, and that's a little bit lower than what we see in the community at about 33%. For all percentages this evening, I'm going to be rounding. We tried our best to round numbers in the annual report for ease of reading, so you'll see, but it could be if you add up every single number and every percentage, we could be at 100.01 or 100.1. We wanted to get it, present a good picture so everybody could kind of understand, but round the numbers as closely as seemed reasonable. Our African-American percentage at our department is about 2.5%, and the city is just a hair over 1.5% for our city demographics. So you see that the hiring demographics roughly mirror our community, which is certainly something that I think brings a lot of value and can certainly present opportunities for connections and break down barriers in policing. We have seen very thankfully, a really high quality, a shift in our recruiting and the quality of the applicant. I'm going to tell you, I have never compromised the folks that I'm willing to hire and have sworn in as Mountain View police officers. But I am seeing more high quality applicants coming in the door, which is a fantastic feeling. I think it is not just a Mountain View trend, but it is certainly an industry-wide trend. But I think we're still faring better and bringing in even more high quality folks than many of our peer agencies. Our Emergency Communications Center is really the hub in many ways of public safety in the city of Mountain View. Often referred to as an ECC or our comm center. It is when you dial 911, these are the folks that answer the phone. We have a 24/7, 365 dedicated team that is very skilled, very well trained, and very efficient. Efficiency is a key in that center. Calls come in and they have to be handled very quickly, regularly. And so the technical skill and the proficiency of these teams and their abilities to work together is really of paramount importance. Our dispatchers handle both police 911 calls, police dispatching, fire department emergency dispatching, as well as being emergency medical dispatchers, meaning they have a whole nother skill set of providing medical care and direction. It's a very rote and licensed process for people who are calling in with medical emergencies. In addition to that, they also dispatch for our Mid-Peninsula Open Space Park District. So they do a lot, In fact, there's even some smaller kind of other duties that they take on that are even greater outside of the public safety spectrum. After hours, when our emergency operations center, when the folks that you would call if a tree were to go down or there's some type of a problem in the city with our facilities, they take over those duties as well. And so you can imagine in a storm, the volumes of calls that they take are pretty incredible. In fact, in 2024, they had 103,000 calls come into our 911 center, into our emergency operations or emergency communications center. Of those, 25,000 were 911 calls. I'm very happy to report, as seen in the annual report, that almost 98%, so 97.9% of those calls were handled within 10 seconds. Sometimes I'll tell you, if a lot of people call 911 for maybe a significant collision or something traumatic or happening in progress, if everybody calls at once, it takes a little bit of time to make sure that they're all calling about the same thing. That's generally where you would see a delay in our 911 answering. But 98% or almost 98% for 25,000 calls within 10 seconds is really a very positive and impressive number, especially given the volume of calls that come in. I'd like to talk a little bit about our crime trends and our property crimes. Now, I will just do a shameless plug for our transparency dashboard. If anyone on the HRC is interested or anybody watching at home or remotely is interested, the police department does have a transparency dashboard that goes into deeper details about our crime trends going back to 2021, which is when the national systems for reporting crime data shifted. So that's the first kind of marker point, but we go from that point forward. And I would encourage anybody that's interested, especially if any of the committee members are interested, to take a look at our transparency dashboard. But looking at our property crimes, you can see that over the last 3 years, there has been a slow, modest, but continuous increase, slight increase in our property crimes in the city, with most of these crimes being kind of now, mind you, the terminology is created at the federal level, but being the all other larceny or the catch-all section. Much of this is going to qualify or fall under package theft and mail theft, bicycle theft, those types of crimes. But that's a pretty significant portion at about 30%. Obviously, we're not immune from auto burglaries and break-ins to cars. We have seen those numbers decrease over the last I'd probably say 5 years, we've seen a notable decrease, but there's been a slight uptick in the downtown area. And that is predominantly the area that is targeted in our city lots. We tend to have vehicles that are parked for longer periods of time. And with that draws in folks that tend to come from out of the area looking for what they're hoping for, kind of high value items inside vehicles. One of the things that we have done that has been very effective to reduce those numbers of auto break-ins in the downtown area is to have lot ambassadors, which is a combination of volunteers as well as department members who remind folks as they're going to dinner in our fantastic downtown not to leave their bags inside their cars, even if their bags are empty, and just to have a presence in the lots. We have seen many times, both anecdotally but also data-driven, that when we have our lot, when we have our folks working the lots, we have fewer break-ins at those lots and often fewer break-ins downtown. Agencies that don't have that have had some of these same crews kind of come that we've seen come through and then leave when they see us, have then gone and hit some of our neighboring agencies. And I'm fairly confident to say that the presence of our folks and the volunteers downtown makes a big difference. Certainly it's not a cure-all, but it does make a big difference in the auto burglaries. Another thing that we have seen, and you'll see that we have the 17% of our property crimes are burglary crimes. A lot of these, because we classify them exactly as required, if one's mailroom is broken into or a package is stolen in a mailroom that is in a parking garage, perhaps under one of these large development apartment complexes, that qualifies as a residential burglary. Now, it doesn't mean that someone's door has been kicked in, but we report it how we are instructed by NIBRS, which is the federal acronym for the reporting mandating process. It's a little confusing. If the federal government would have come to Mountain View PD, we would have asked them to break it up a little bit more cleanly so we could separate these things, but we do lump them a little bit together. So the burglary number is a little bit misleading. 17% of these 8,000 cases are not home break-ins in the traditional sense. In fact, we probably, it would be dramatically less, and I would say probably closer to 1%, maybe 2%, but even that probably lower. Moving on to our person crimes, I'm happy to show you on the graph here that although our property crimes had slightly upticked, our person crimes have decreased modestly. Those are crimes where a person is the actual victim. So you can think of a theft where property is the victim, but a act of violence or a threat of violence, which is when you see the robbery numbers up there, that would qualify as a person crime. Those numbers have ticked downwards modestly, but I'm still happy to see them going in the right direction. The majority, about 70% of our person crimes cases are a type of battery, whether it's with injury or without injury. So that's the simple assault and the aggravated assault. And that makes up about 70% of our crimes against persons. And then the intimidation would qualify for either a threat of violence or a threat to hurt somebody, which we would refer to as terrorist threats. And then the only other number that I really want to highlight for the committee is that 3.7% kidnapping. Kidnapping does not mean that a stranger has abducted someone, but if one is moved from one place to another, either by force or fear, so they could be picked up and moved or told to move to another location in perhaps a dispute of some sort, could be intimate partner or other, that would qualify legally as a kidnapping, and we would codify it in our system as a kidnapping. It does not mean that almost 4% of our person crimes cases involved stranger abduction, et cetera. Moving on to our professional standards unit. The professional standards unit is directly under my office. So the professional standards unit and sergeant reports directly to me, the police chief, and they investigate and handle both officer commendations. So it could be a life-saving award or messages that come in for our community of thanks and appreciation for work. In fact, that's the majority of what comes in, but also it is a very significant and important position, and they investigate any complaints that are provided or alleged, whether they're generated internally at the department or from the community externally. So investigate a violation of policy. And also they coordinate and oversee the review of our uses of force and our pursuit driving. And you can see in 2024, although we had about 35,000 calls for service where we deployed out to the field and contacted people, we only had 20 uses of force, which I had to look it up because I couldn't do the math in my head, but it's about 0.06% of our contacts result in a use of force. Of those, you can see that the only 16 had minor injuries and 4 had no injuries whatsoever. We had 8 pursuits last year. Of those pursuits, there were 2 apprehensions and 1 collision, and the other 6 pursuits were called off either by the officer themselves or by the sergeant overseeing it. Generally, it's the officer, but the sergeant is always monitoring any pursuit traffic. Of our 7 personnel complaints, 5 were unfounded, and 2 are still pending investigation. In general, a complaint by law has about a year to be completed. There's more nuance to it. And one of the things that kind of either expedites or delays a complaint investigation is the accessibility of witnesses or the complainant and their availability. So those are always things that we're kind of fighting against the clock with, but they're taken very seriously. They're handled by a unit that directly reports to me. And when we're dealing with issues related to discipline or allegations of major misconduct, those are conversations that are also had with our HR department as well as the city attorney's office. So the police department and the professional standards unit and myself, we don't operate in a bubble. We very much are part of a team that reviews these allegations of misconduct. Having said that, I'm very thankful that that number is a significantly small number. I didn't do the math for 7 out of 35,000, but it's, less than half of 0.06%. 0.12? No, 0.03%. Traffic collisions and traffic safety are a very important aspect of public safety, both to the police department and also to the city. We work hand in glove with our traffic engineering and our transportation divisions, reviewing collisions, near misses, and specifically injury-based accidents to see if there are needs for roadway improvements or what the underlying causes were. Those divisions get copies of all of our traffic collision police reports, and we maintain very positive relationships and work collaboratively on projects like Vision Zero and Safe Routes to School. Our department addresses traffic safety holistically, and certainly citations are an important part of that review. The goal of a citation is to change behavior. So I don't have an expectation that every traffic stop would result in a citation. My goal is that the traffic stop is utilized to change the behavior of the driver. And certainly, I don't want to give a mixed message. Sometimes the best way to do that is with a citation, certainly, but not every time. And you can see about 15% of total citations are for traffic-related violations. The other 85%-ish are parking violations, which is pretty consistent with the industry. Those 2,000 traffic citations are issued by a combination of our patrol officers as well as our specific dedicated traffic unit. Our total number of traffic collisions in 2024 was 335. In 23, it was slightly lower. It was just below 300 at 295. But in general, since 2018 and 2019, we've seen pretty significant reductions in the number of collisions in the city of Mountain View. Down, and by 2018, I think we're down over 100. 2019, it was 200 higher. So definitely tracking in a positive direction. And that is, one of the main goals of traffic engineering, and one of the ways we try to support them is sharing both what our officers are anecdotally seeing, but also the data that we're seeing. Our youth services unit, you can see that the photo up here is of 3 of our school resource officers and then two of our police assistants that support the youth services unit. Our school resource officers fall under the youth services unit. In fact, they are really the ultra vast majority of what the youth services unit does. They have since 1962, that unit has had a very youth-focused supportive role within the community, created initially by a visionary man that changed hundreds, if not thousands, of lives of our youth in our community, Bill Crawford, someone that I'm very proud to have known and both served beside, but also been a kid in Mountain View and seen him change the life of many of my friends. An incredible man that has a long legacy that cannot be overstated. Our school resource officers draw on the history that was created by Bill and still continues, where we focus on youth, on supporting our youth and our youth stakeholders, whether they be parents, challenge team members, school counselors and school districts, to provide safe environments and to address challenges that our youth are having. That can be everything from working with parents on the unique challenges that their kids are having, helping follow up and mentor youth, coordinating resources and available resources, providing summer activities, youth mentoring, the relationships that are founded by our youth resource officers start in the elementary school level and continue through with our kids all the way through high school, and frankly, continue beyond high school as well. And you can see often, like our police assistants here, there are kids that grew up in the community that have these relationships. I'm very proud to and love to hire from kids that have come through the community and have been involved with the school resource officers, whether that's through the Explorer programs or others. Even if they don't want to be police officers, we have seen extreme success for kids that were otherwise kind of on the margins within our community, both hiring at the police department, but just overall growth and development. Our school resource officers, in addition to responding to and working with counselors in the schools and parents, they have a number of programs that are really significant in the community. And forgive me, that font looked a little bit bigger before, but the very top of the chart there is Cops That Care. That is a holiday-based, for lack of a better term, it's kind of a toy drive that we do for many of our most underserved kids. It's almost 1,200 children that we're able to provide Christmas presents or holiday presents for. But it's not just presents. It is also hygiene, address hygiene needs, toothbrushes, deodorant for kids, things that are expensive that need to be replaced, that are a challenge for some community members. But also we've brought in diapers and a station for parents. So diapers and baby clothes and things that are needed can be addressed. That's it is a heavy lift, but it is done by people that love this program. It's been going on for about 2 decades now, and it is a huge success that takes a lot of help, but does a lot of good in our community. And it's driven through our youth services unit, and it works hand in hand with the school counselors to identify these families, as well as with our patrol officers. Our Dreams and Futures program, which is going on right now. In fact, it's pretty much the whole month of July. It is a elementary and middle school mentoring program. It is a summer program designed to provide character development and opportunities, both fun and enriching and educational opportunities for youth that would otherwise not have those types of things to do during the summers. It's everything from diet and exercise conversations to swimming at pools and hiking in redwoods that many of these kids have never seen before. It's a fantastic program. Again, we find our kids both through our interactions with these kids, but also through the school counselors and the interventionalists, and they make those recommendations to us. We're very proud to see many of our Dreams and Futures programs kids come back later to be volunteer counselors and then eventually paid counselors in the program. So it's really a wonderful evolution to see from some of these kids. We also have PAL mentoring programs. So PAL is Police Activities League, and they help us fund and provide the insurance for a lot of the youth programs that we do. So we have a mentoring program at Castro Elementary School, as well as PAL Gals, which is a new girls-based mentoring and empowerment program. at Crittenden Middle School that was created by school resource officer Juliana Rodriguez Leopold, who herself raised 4 children in our district. And it was created out of a need, both in talking with parents and the district and the young ladies. She saw this need, proposed the program. Our Public Safety Foundation helped support it, and the district was a great support as well. Additionally, we have ROAR, which forgive me for forgetting the acronym, but it's ROAR because it's at Graham Middle School. And it is a youth-based mentoring program where we mentor and we help 8th graders mentor the 6th graders who then go into youth mentors, help kids in junior high, which is where we do start to see a lot of behavioral problems and challenges, help them make better decisions and both help empower the older kids to help lead the way for some of these younger kids. It's been a phenomenal program. There was a lot of ask. We're in year 3 at the middle schools now with ROAR. And it was created out of a need, and we've really seen a lot of success from it. So very thankful for that and thankful for the support that we get. Just a quick nod to some of the community partners that help fund Dreams and Futures. It's done by a large donation from Community Health. So El Camino Hospital gives tens of thousands of dollars to support the program. Google many years has provided transportation for the activities for youth. The Public Safety Foundation provides money. It is really a collaboration for our community, and we could not do it alone. Our neighborhood and event services, our NES unit. Some of you, hopefully many of you, recognize Officer Janlia McPherson here. Probably the thing that our NES unit is known most for is our community outreach officer, or COO, and Janlia was an exceptional COO. You can see her here working in 2024. The community outreach officer addresses the complex needs of the community and members within the community who are unstably housed. They do a number of things, but one of the main manners in which we've seen a lot of success in changing behavior and changing lives is bridging services and providing opportunities, finding people through the manner in which police officers find people. So people that need services, calls for service, or folks that are maybe sleeping on the street and or calling us asking for help, utilizing those opportunities to then bridge them to the services that are out there. So they maintain a strong connection with our community-based organizations. And that connection and that awareness both of the resources available and knowing who to call to try to coordinate resulted in 184 permanent housing referrals from Officer McPherson in 2024 alone. It is a significant number. That is a extremely important position to the Mountain View Police Department. It's something that we value and has been a great success for us. We work hand in glove again with the city manager's human services office to ensure that we're providing really comprehensive, complex care related to these needs of folks that are living on the margins. It is a balancing act between compassion, enforcement, services, and there isn't one methodology that's utilized, but it's very complex and it's bespoke for each different person and their individual needs. So it takes a very special person to be a community outreach officer, and we're grateful to have that program. I know other agencies have modeled similar programs after seeing the success of our community outreach officer program. Another thing that our NES unit, that Neighborhood and Event Services, does is they do presentations on public safety and home or business safety. So there's a program called Safety Through Environmental Design. So our highly trained, it's expensive training, but we've invested in it, officers will go to everything from an apartment complex to a business complex to a city park, evaluate the layout of it, the type of lighting, the plants, the roadway conditions, and provide recommendations for safety to the residents or to the business owners. We've done this 18 times in 2024. It is at no cost, just upon request and availability. And hopefully if anybody's listening, is always looking for more work for the CPTED is the acronym. Everything in policing has an acronym. So it's our CPTED team. They love to do these presentations. just give you a high-level update of some of our investigative services unit, or ISD, our detective bureau's work. We have three main units within our investigative services division. We have our crimes against persons unit, our crime suppression unit, and then finally our cyber and financial crimes unit. That crimes against persons unit, they handle those crimes that we were looking at earlier, the person crimes. They are the most serious of our crimes, involve the homicides, crimes against children, robberies and sexual assaults. In 2024, there were a number of significant investigations. We have one shooting that is currently categorized as an attempted homicide, but may very well shift over into a homicide, hopefully not. But we're anticipating that it is. So it's a pretty major investigation. And certainly when you're investigating a crime like that, you don't investigate from the position of best case scenario for the victim. So we are investigating that essentially identical to a homicide investigation with the suspect in custody for the shooting. Additionally, and some of you may have seen, there was a fairly major, in fact, it was an extremely major sexual assault predator predominantly in the Mountain View and downtown Mountain View area that was drugging people and sexually assaulting them. That case is still ongoing. However, there is an extradition warrant being processed at the federal and foreign level, and continues to be a very major case with even more victims coming forward. I think we're above 50 victims at this point. That was a major case. Imagine, if you normally get 5 of these types of cases, you get 50 of them. The volume just was unbelievable. And frankly, having a conversation with our district attorney, he had never seen a case like this in his long career either. Our crime suppression unit, that's our burglary and kind of street crime guys. They had some pretty major investigations initiating in 2024. There were a couple of pretty prolific residential burglary crews that were targeting different neighborhoods in the city. Those investigations initiated in 2024, but were culminated with arrest and search warrants in 2025. But I'm very happy to report there were major investigations that took a long time and involved a lot of partners, law enforcement partners. But we did see significant reductions in the residential burglaries immediately following each of those apprehensions. Our cyber and financial crimes unit, that CFCU, you can think of them, the main function of that unit is to serve as a digital cyber forensics laboratory. That is something that most agencies our size, in fact, almost no agencies our size have. San Jose has one, and then that's it. Besides us, it's the crime lab. And you can imagine that every investigation in this era of any significance has a strong nexus to a mobile device, some level of electronics, whether it's a router because someone's phone logged into Wi-Fi or somebody's phone activities associated to criminal activity. It is a cornerstone of every investigation, and it is essential for every complex investigation and prosecution. The problem is, realistically, the crime lab has to handle everybody's investigation for the entire county, and those are triaged like an emergency room. So a major case comes in, you could end up being bumped down. They do their best, and they're under the district attorney's office, so they do try to align with the needs of the courts, but it is a challenge to get that information back, and that's why we've invested so heavily in training and equipment in our digital cyber forensics laboratory with, I think it was something 453 individual devices that were examined is a significant number. And it's also, frankly, it alleviates a lot of wait lists or a lot of weight on the crime lab to allow them to handle other cases. We will and have helped other agencies in their time of need. If they reach out to us, we'll certainly help out as we have capability to, and based on the significance of it. And we send that same main cyber digital forensic analyst to a regional task force to help out with some of their electronics as well. Along those lines, we invest our personnel in our major law enforcement task forces in the region. So that's a Santa Clara County Specialized Enforcement Team. They are the main fentanyl investigators, sort of fentanyl death or fentanyl poisoning investigators for the region. That is a huge resource to us. And yes, we give one staff member, but in return, not only do you get significant expertise and technical knowledge that's developed by that person, but when I need resources, the term is force multiplier, but really means I get one person and I can get 8 people when I have a problem or we have an investigation. It's a huge resource. In a similar way, there's a high-tech task force and an auto theft task force that we invest our people in. And we see those dividends come back, both with their expertise, but also with the resources when they are needed for major investigations. And lastly, and hopefully this is not a surprise, we are invested in continuing to communicate through online means. So our social media channels are robust and continue to be invested in. And we hope that and have continued to use in 2024 and before those social media channels to engage in dialogue, to find, to share information that's relevant, and also to showcase the work that our department does. But also we really use that information, that opportunity to receive information, whether it's related to perhaps crimes that have occurred that we're sharing information about, like was the case with that major sexual assault investigation, or traffic collisions and traffic concerns that information comes in. We will often see people share messages related to their traffic concerns, and that enables us to then take that. It's one more way to take that information and share it with our traffic enforcement teams and our patrol teams. It's a really big resource for us and just allows us to reach a lot more people very quickly. It is not a replacement for human contact, but it certainly supplements it fantastic. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Chair, and answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief Canfield, for the amazing presentation, honestly. I will now open it up for questions from the committee to ask Chief Canfield on the report. So I can start us off. Again, thank you so much for the service that you and your team have done for the city. It's even amazing to hear like the level of complaints that are how low they are. And I definitely agree. I think we have like high quality officers. And I think an important factor with that comes in maintaining that quality right throughout their career here. So one of my questions is, from 2024 and even till now, what changes or improvements have y'all made regarding training with respect to de-escalation, mental health crises, and bias mitigation?
Those?
Yeah. Or you can even.
I appreciate both the components and also the significant interest in areas that are of extreme importance for real quality 21st century policing. There are areas that I place a lot of value on as well. They're significant to our police department, to our training division, and to our community for a reason. We have been invested in those areas for a long time. That aspect of it is the philosophical or cultural approach to the department is not new, but what we do is we send folks to the most up-to-date or the most significant trainings that are going on. So for example, we've been sending our officers to LGBTQ plus training conferences outside in kind of the North Bay area, but really related to some of the changing environments for trans community members. And as we were seeing those concerns and youth concerns related to mental health and a sense of psychological safety, that became an area that we realized, we've gone to standard training, but I don't think we've gone to training specific to this community need. It didn't come from a specific incident so much as seeing the needs and staying connected to our community. And that's something that, I don't think there's no replacement for. So the importance of evaluating our work, seeing what we're doing well, doing after action reports and after action evaluations on our uses of force, on our major investigations. And then we look at what training we can do. So there are trainings for tactical communications where we've looked at, and even if often we'll see a class, say, well, this is one we haven't taken. Let's send some staff to it and see if there's value to it. And then we can start funneling people. If we like this class, if we find that this provides value to our officers and would help them be better communicators, let's invest in that class. And I will say there are a lot, it's a big industry right now. De-escalation tactics, communication, and bias-based policing are significant. I don't want to go on for too long, but training is one thing, but implementing it both into your expectations of your people, putting it into your in-house scenario training, and to having it embed in your culture, that's what really, that's where the brass tacks is. That's what makes the difference in the field, and that's why that cultural aspect is why I think our uses of forces are so low. Our uses of force are so low. Certainly, there are more opportunities where the law and the policy would allow for force to be used, but we implement, train, and expect our folks to set up scenarios so that they don't have to use force, even if it's justified. And we see that time and time again, where we do use less force than many of our peer agencies because it's in our culture and we try to avoid it.
Thank you so much, Chief. I appreciate the response. I had one more question. So, in respects to, I believe how officers have been interacting, especially with our more vulnerable communities, I think, and specifically with homelessness, we've been seeing a trend with other cities such as San Jose or Fremont of almost a criminalization of folks who aren't housed and not taking up shelter when that service really isn't available as much, right? My question to you is, has the department seen any trends in calls or complaints involving individuals facing or experiencing homelessness since 2024 and onward? And how has that data been informing y'all's approach with respects to outreach, partnerships with other community-based organizations, or response strategies?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. It is a complex, evolving set of circumstances, and certainly case law, and then other agencies or other cities' decisions about how they handle these things impact us. And it is not uncommon to see, whether it's Santa Cruz or San Francisco or another agency make a decision about what they're going to do related to public camping or vehicles in the roadway, and then seeing those influences come into our town. That's just the reality of living in a metropolitan area, contiguous to other cities. It is a significant issue. It is not an easily solved. There really, frankly, is no resolution or no solution that fixes everything from a police department standpoint. We try very, very strongly and very purposefully to strike a balance of public safety and compassion. There are things that are not permitted and cannot be permitted, and that actually hurt everyone in the community, whether they're sleeping outside or in vehicles. So we try to really have that discernment and that wisdom about when our officers need to have discretion and need to work on finding lasting problem-solving solutions for their clients or for the people in these difficult situations. But there are sometimes when enforcement is the best mechanism to provide safety and immediate needs, and some folks in crisis need resources that are just not available through other means. So it is a complex evaluation that really takes very special people, and that's one of the reasons we invest so heavily in our community outreach officer position. But it's more than just that position. It really is cultural, and these things are discussed at a very high level within the organization very frequently. We work very hard to have deep connections to our community-based organizations to understand what their needs are and how we can collaborate and work together, which is why you see so many referrals to those services. That is something that pays huge dividends, understanding what's available and when. It's problem solving on an individual basis, and that has really proven to be a big success. I wish there was a solution, and I've yet to see it. I think there's going to be a new vehicle count. I don't know for folks living in vehicles in the city of Mountain View. I don't know what that number is, but it certainly continues to be a focus of the city, of the police department, of the city manager's office, through the Human Services Division, and obviously so many of our community-based organizations. It is. That's a question of what's at the tip of the spear for the police department.
Thank you for your response. Committee Member McDonald.
I have two different concerns. One has to do with language. What happens when a non-English speaking person is involved with either a complaint by that person or somebody complains about that person and contacts your department.
So very proud of the significant number of bilingual officers, and they speak the most widely spoken second language at the MVPD is Spanish. But also we have services with a language line for communications and translation. So I can tell you, being a cop for 26 years, I don't like to do a conversation or an interview with somebody through a remote translation line. I like to find an officer, if I can't speak that language, that speaks that language. That is the ideal method, but it's not always available. But the services are the same. Sometimes it goes a little slower if you have to translate, but the services are the same regardless of one's language or nation of origin or immigration status. In fact, we don't ask questions about immigration status. It's both against our policy, but it also has nothing to do with the work that we do. We provide that same level of service. That is essential to our purpose and our mission. We've known for, the chair and I were speaking earlier, I'm sure it's over 30 years, but we can count back at least 28 years where the city of Mountain View has not engaged in immigration enforcement, because we know that undermines public safety and makes it harder for folks to feel safe and to feel comfortable coming forward with either information about crime or once they've been victims of crime. So those issues are at the forefront as well for the Mountain View Police Department. The rubber meets the road in the translation service, but that's kind of the very tip of a very big iceberg about a sense of safety and purpose and belonging in a community. We've worked very hard and we're not done. It doesn't end, but to ensure that all of our community knows that the police services that are here, that the police department is here for everybody within the department or within the city, irrespective of language or nation of origin.
And my other question has to do with bicycles, and specifically the addition of e-bikes on our streets and our sidewalks. I know that there's a program for third graders about bike safety and, other kinds of related issues. By the time kids who've had that training or that information and third grade become middle school kids, their attitudes change significantly. And I think that we would all be safer if in middle school there was a redo that addresses attitudes and the need for respect of mothers with strollers, infirm or elderly people walking, and also the need to pay attention for bicyclists, to pay attention to drivers of cars, and the need for drivers of cars to respect and be aware of bicyclists. The whole issue has been exacerbated by e-bikes. They're almost in a planet of their own. Has the department done anything to help with that situation?
It's a wonderful question. And I agree with everything that you've said, especially the challenges that were already pretty significant being exacerbated by e-bikes, and e-bikes with kids on them is the worst kind of e-bike for challenges, just based on decision-making and a desire for what is fun to one and dangerous to another. We have done education related to e-bikes for our officers. And I know that our school resource officers have addressed these issues with some of our youth. I have seen personally some of our youth taking up multiple lanes Now, a bicyclist is allowed to be in a car lane. However, the manner in which these kids were doing it was neither safe nor acceptable. I no doubt the vehicle code agrees with me. It might take me a minute to figure out why, but mobs of preteen kids zooming in and out of roadways that are not intended to be shared in that manner is a significant issue. I know that our school resource officers have talked with and worked on those kids specific. The question about is it being addressed at the middle schools is a fantastic question. I don't know. If it's not, it needs to be. And it will be built into the fall curriculum for our school resource officers. So I really, Commissioner McDonald, I appreciate that perspective. And you're right, third graders are wonderful. It's a very different animal. I've had 3 third graders and 3 middle school kids. They're very different.
Thank you, Committee Member McDonald, for your question. Vice Chair?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I want to say +1 to Commissioner McDonald's suggestion. I have also been, as a new mom, I see kids going 30 miles an hour on a scooter, no helmet. I'm like, oh God. I also have 2 questions, bit of a trend. My first one is going back to kind of the topic of trust in our community, and I really appreciate what you shared about how seriously Mountain View Police Department takes it. I know that there is a disturbing trend in our country of officers, specifically ICE officers, not identifying themselves or covering their faces, covering their names, or even people impersonating law enforcement officers and relying on that, on that confusion. I was wondering, how do you deal with the fear and the erosion of trust that creates in our community? And does your department have any policies on identifying yourself or keeping badges and name tags visible? Just what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate how concerning and how different it is to have an officer with their face covered and not having an identifiable name tag or badge number, et cetera. So our uniformed officers all have name tags, all have badge numbers. A plainclothes officer, someone in that community, that crime suppression unit, they may be doing surveillance and not have the opportunity to be dressed in that same manner. We're very thoughtful, and that's just the reality. I've worked many years in an undercover capacity on some regional narcotics task forces. At some point, you can't do all of the same work and be in uniform. They're just at odds with each other. But very purposefully, we ensure that we have marked units, officers in uniform, in marked police cars, come to the areas immediately when we have any kind of plainclothes activity. We had detectives in town looking for a missing juvenile that was reportedly with an adult with a firearm this morning. As a result of that, we knew they were coming in from out of town. We had resources available. We knew they were detectives, so suspected they might not be in uniform. They did have some my understanding is identifiable markers, but we still wanted to make sure that it was very clear who they were, who we were, and it is a high priority. It's a big concern. We've worked very hard to have quality relationships and trust with our community. It takes a long time to build, and it doesn't take a lot to erode. And so I am concerned about losing, like, tangentially, or the actions of others eroding the trust with our community. So a lot of it's conversations, engagement, and communication with stakeholders, ensuring that they know the culture and the values of the Mountain View Police Department, but also our policies, our laws, and the things that we value. I think that has a lot of impact, but I'm not naive to think that it does everything. So I think in some ways we're swimming against the tides. But so far, the feedback has been very positive related to Mountain View PD and folks understanding us. But I don't think that's everybody across the board. I think that you're certainly is pervasive across communities. It is something that we're hyper aware of and very concerned of.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then my second question, first, I thank you for explaining how this burglary number is kind of inflated by residential mail theft, because and I was on the topic of mail theft, I was actually wondering, what trends have you seen with that? Has there been an uptick in apartment mailrooms being broken into? I know there was some high profile cases of mail carriers being robbed for their keys, and what what can we do about that to raise awareness? I know that, I'm wondering if apartment complexes have been taking you up on the offer of doing safety presentations. My personal connection to it is my brother is a mailman in Mountain View.
Oh.
And he told me, he's like, yeah, some of these apartment complexes just get hit over and over, like, and it's like, so it's I don't know. I'm just wondering, what trends have you seen and what recommendations do you have for addressing it?
So we have seen exactly what your brother is sharing, that we have seen some apartment complexes be targeted time and time again. I think that much like some of the auto burglary trends, if it's fruitful in an area, people will come back repeatedly. Some of those places, we've done those environmental design reviews and talked about cameras and lighting and locking mechanisms. And I think that has been helpful in some places, not a panacea by any means. We have had, and it might have been in 23, but I think it was 24, had a mail carrier robbed at gunpoint and their key taken away from them. But there are also like demos of fake, I think it's called Star Key. I have to remember the exact name, but you can find how to make them as well. So there's more than one way to get one or make one, which is very concerning. I would like to see the post office rekey the city of Mountain View, as would, I think, everybody in the city of Mountain View. I'm sure the post office would like to do that too, but that obviously is a very large expense. And I think that is done on, my understanding is a rotational basis. And certainly, we're not the only ones that would want that. So I don't think that that's in the budget. But if asked, that would be, the number one thing that I would like to see from a federal partner level. One thing, we are definitely seeing packages and mail from especially large apartment complexes. Often those are those underground units, and they're in everybody's items are all in kind of one space, and that makes it ideal. It's a watering hole. And so you go there to find where everything is, and it works. We have had a lot of arrests at some of these locations, and we've seen some downticks at times based on some of the arrests, but I can look in the eye and say that we've stopped the problem. It is a broad problem across the board. And new people come in, other people come in and continue to do it even after we've made some really significant arrests. I would encourage folks both to communicate with their neighbors about picking up packages. It's something I do all the time, and I would hope that if we have I hope that we have good relationships with our neighbors. And then leverage those to make sure that people are taking each other's packages in more regularly. That's very helpful. We have seen cameras at one of the large apartment complexes be very useful. So there's a flock camera system that alerts us when certain vehicles that are either on a DOJ hot list for being used in crimes or are registered as stolen coming into town.
What camera system? Sorry to interrupt.
Flock is a company name. It's ALPR, so automated license plate reading
that,
camera.
yes.
But what we have seen is often when folks commit these crimes, many crimes, they don't do them in their own cars, or they do them either with stolen license plates or in stolen vehicles. So there's an apartment complex in town that has one of these cameras that can alert to us. We don't give our information to them, but it's a one-way street. And then that has been very fruitful to know when a stolen car is going into the underground parking lot at this one complex, it means something's probably going to be stolen, whether it's another vehicle or packages. And that's enabled us to have a much faster response because we don't need to have a victim call us. We just immediately get the notification. So that's a really valuable system. In fact, that camera system has been invaluable in solving some of the residential burglary crews and some pretty major investigations. We had a kidnapping, domestic violence circumstance, might have been a juvenile female or very young or very close. The older I get, the closer it seems. Definitely, to me, I would say a kid. And she was reported to be kidnapped by a threat of violence and taken to another city. We were working through technological means to identify her location. However, the scope that we got from the cell phone was just too broad to be effective, and we were looking but could not find her. And it was the access to those flock camera systems that gave us enough information to get a fresh location. We went out and were able to rescue her without incident to anybody in place, and sent our detectives as well as the San Jose Police Department and had a peaceful resolution. They're an extremely powerful tool, one that comes with a lot of responsibility. It's not something we take lightly, and but we have seen already in their MVPD infancy, their success, their dramatic success as a public safety tool. So those definitely help a lot with these repeat burglar offenders that like to do mail theft, because often they'll have a few cars that they rotate through, but once you know what the pattern is, you can enter that car in and get an alert when it comes in.
Thank you.
Jump in
Thank
real
you.
quick with that?
Gonna go with committee member
Hold on, I wanna
Sylvester.
Follow up with that just real quick.
Okay,
So, cause I live by the old Crestview Hotel,
Yes, sir.
and we've been hit by a lot of auto catalytic converters have been taken multiple times. And we've been hit by mail quite a bit over there as well. So this is something that is, if we can approach our apartment management with, this would be a huge one. Cause they've tried to put up security gates, and it's been 3 years since the project started. And this is a concern with all, I mean, it's a safety concern. One, we had, the person, the thief was in the carport underneath my unit. My neighbor from across saw them and they were holding the gun. So they
This is
refused.
for a catalytic converter theft, I assume.
Yep. So, and they've gotten that car 3 times.
The same car.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So don't worry, we've voiced our concerns with our apartment complex. We've changed management a couple times. But if I can get the spelling, because you said flock system, I don't know if it's FLOCK, if it's an acronym for something.
It is FLOCK, but you can also, and I'll leave some cards, you can shoot me an email or a phone call, and I'm happy to talk to you more about them. We don't make recommendations for businesses specific. However, this network of cameras it's called Flock because it all integrates together. So these cameras provide us with a notification. There may be other ones that provide other folks, but in this case, they are a really powerful tool for early fast notification and these types of circumstances. I will tell you, when you're saying catalytic converter, armed with a firearm, repeat offender, my younger brother's vehicle was broken into twice. Once 100 yards, no, less than 100 yards, 50 yards from the police station in the middle of the night, and his catalytic converter was stolen. Another time in Willow Glen, it was stolen, and in the video in Willow Glen, the residential video, you could see one of the subjects holding a firearm by his waistband. I don't know why catalytic converter thieves tend to be armed in a way that a lot of other types of thieves are not. But it is a trend. It is something that we're seeing and observing, and it is deeply concerning.
Well, our space is very open as well. My patio was on the street, and I've had my bike taken off of that as well. So because it was an easy lift. So we have a lot of exposed spaces out there. So I think this would definitely help with our issues, because our complexes and that security gates, it's still not gonna help totally. I did security systems back in the day, so I know all where the access points are. It's not gonna cover it all, but we were hoping it would help. This can help us. I definitely will follow up.
thank you, committee member Webb, committee member Sylvester.
Thank you. I have a couple of very different questions. One is actually related to what Vice Chair Chadwell was saying. I know that MVPD has said it will not cooperate with ICE. I don't know if is that a formal policy? Is it, like, what does that actually mean and look like? How can the community understand it better?
A very important question. So immigration enforcement, civil immigration enforcement is against the law in California to support and to assist in. It is also against our policy in a 30-year tradition. So we do not provide information related to immigration status, nor do we give driver's license information. or any information related to an immigration enforcement to federal officers. As a result of federal immigration enforcement, right now, any requests of any information related to federal law enforcement just is coming at a higher level through my awareness, so that obviously there's a lot of federal law enforcement investigations that are very significant and have an impact on public safety, and those still need to go on, but just that level of discernment and oversight is at an increased level, despite the policy, the law, and the practice still being in place. But we have had many community conversations, meetings, and sharing that both the policy, the direction, and the importance of not asking immigration. We don't ask immigration status. We don't treat anybody different. We don't document that anywhere. That is essential to our ability to provide public safety for everybody, and will continue to be such.
Great. And my second question is very, very different. You talked about your hiring and recruitment process a little bit. I'm curious how retention has looked in the last few years. And when you hire officers or when they leave, what are the reasons they give for either coming here or leaving? And are any of those fixable at a city level?
So very thankfully, our retention levels are very high.
Yeah.
We have had a few folks leave the Mountain View Police Department to take law enforcement jobs in out-of-state areas in Texas. But that's a cost of living and a different quality of life conversation.
Yeah.
And that's not one that if, that is really that is a very different kind of value proposition than someone going to another agency regionally because the community is more supportive, et cetera. So it's quite the opposite for us. We have a number of exceptional quality lateral police officers that really run the gamut of experience and time on, from 20-year officers to 3-year officers from various agencies. Some that have taken off their sergeant chevrons to come be Mountain View police officers at an entry level because of both the culture of the police department, the morale within the police department, the support from the city, the support from our community, and the support at council and city hall. Now, support doesn't mean endorsement of everything that is done, and certainly coming because of morale doesn't mean that everything is perfect. Like every relationship, it is a continuous balance and takes work, but we have it very good. We have a lot of support. We have a desire, we have support from our city council and from our city management staff and at the chief's level for the important work that has to be done. That is not the case everywhere. And I think a lot of our officers, especially our officers, really appreciate that relationship and the importance of having what it feels like to do police work, it is very hard work. Sometimes there's no good solutions. And everybody can't, sometimes not only can everybody not be happy, but nobody can be happy with an outcome that has to happen. To do that in an environment where you feel supported means all the difference to our officers. And so we get people that care about that. And as a result, we see exceptional officers coming in.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sorry, and I did want to add to your the previous statement that committee member Sylvester had asked you regarding the laws. So we do have legislation in California that basically doesn't allow law enforcement within limits to interact with ICE. So that's SB 54, that's the California Values Act, which prohibits local and state law enforcement from using resources to enforce federal immigration laws and not honoring ICE detainers without a judicial warrant, completely different from an administrative warrant, meaning they did it in-house versus a court-ordered one. And limits information sharing with ICE, and also AB 4, which is the Trust Act, prevents law enforcement from holding individuals for ICE unless they're convicted of a certain serious crime. And in 2024, we also have Rob Bonta, who reaffirmed SB 54, as well as what Chief Cantwell said, officers not asking or reporting on immigration status from residents. So just kind of adding on to what Chief Cantwell has eloquently said. Any other questions from the committee? Committee member Lester.
Thank you for the comprehensive presentation and for answering all of our extensive questions. I only have a few. My first is, has the Mountain View Police Department seen an uptick in cybercrime, specifically those involving sexual offenses involving AI? And how is the police department evolving to combat criminal usage of AI?
We have seen significant increases in cyber crimes.
Mhm.
AI is coming and we will see it, but we haven't seen it yet. But I would expect in our REACT task force, or our high-tech task force, as well as our cyber digital forensics unit, they are at the forefront of these issues. We will absolutely see increased criminal activity, fraud, online activity, pig butchering, passwords being hacked, deep fakes occurring. Absolutely, we are going to be seeing these things. Right now, we have not seen much of it at all. As it relates to like sexual exploitation of youth specifically, we have seen quite a bit at a cyber level. Not with AI yet, but absolutely we will see it with AI, whether it's the kind of likeness of one person put on another, you name it. You know, sometimes it's just, you know, frankly, and for lack of a better term, dumb kids doing dumb kid things, but other times there are much more sophisticated exploitative grown-ups utilizing systems and communication networks or online chat groups to really target our youth. And we have seen that a lot. That is why that cyber digital forensics unit, they are part of an internet crimes against children's task force. So not only do we investigate cases that come in, but we also support at a regional level, because certainly those cases don't sit within, most crime doesn't just sit cleanly within a border, but these cases really extend beyond just the borders of Mountain View. But they are coming like a tidal wave.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And my second question, kind of along the same vein of things that we're seeing coming down with the current administration, is a fear of engaging in peaceful protests and a fear of increased surveillance of protesters. So you mentioned flock cameras, and Waymo is now here in Mountain View along, we have a lot of folks who drive Teslas. So I'm interested in what essentially the existing standards and protocols are in which MVPD, besides a warrant, can access private surveillance data.
Okay, so I mean, the baseline quest, there's kind of two different questions there as I
Yeah.
look at it. I'm going to answer the tough one first, which is how can we access data? We can access it with a search warrant that's based on a felony crime. In theory, it's a search, so we could conduct a search with exigent circumstances. I'm not so familiar with any case law related to this, but I know that you can bypass Miranda to ask if somebody threw a gun by a tot lot or a children's playground. You can bypass and say, where'd you put the gun? And that's allowed. So there may be an exception there to searching some of this information for the most significant of incidents. Think of like the Boston Marathon bombers. And the other one is you can ask. Our officers certainly have the ability to ask for consent for data when both when those circumstances are in place, but also when they're not. So we don't have to have a felony to ask for somebody's home camera. If a theft happened in front of a house or a car collision happened, that wouldn't qualify as something that would require a search warrant. We can just go to the door and say, hey, it might just be an infraction, but it might be really important to know who caused the accident. And we can go and ask, and they can provide us with that information. So like any search or seizure, that would be kind of fall under consent. So we can utilize that consent. And sometimes it's a really, really important tool because much like that traffic collision, we really do need to know, but we may not be able to compel one to share it with us. But often we find that people have a vested interest in community safety and do share information. Now, Waymo's, we can ask Waymo, but they're not going to grant access. That those corporate entities in general, and I guess I can't speak for Waymo, but just practically, I'd be shocked if they just started sharing information without a search warrant. In those circumstances, you need a search warrant to obtain information. That's kind of the gold standard, but it's also what we would expect from a corporate entity in many circumstances related to crimes that would happen. Not every time. I mean, you might have camera that captures a theft within your own store and choose to share that one time, but not another.
Mhm.
It would be up to the individual. Related to how we respond to and address issues of protests
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and constitutional rights. Irrespective of the nature of the protests, it is the Mountain View Police Department's job and mission, and we are sworn to uphold the Constitution. So we will support any lawful protest for any topic. And now that means that in general, what we will do, and we know that someone is going to be protesting, we'll reach out to that protest organizer, see which ways, again, irrespective of the topic, we don't ask them what their stance is on the thing that they're protesting. We ask what their plans are, how many folks they expect to have. Not so much now, but and not that long ago, we asked if they were planning on having anybody arrested, if we could coordinate that, if they were going to make us carry them, or if they would get up, or what we could do to collaborate, what their level of like civil disobedience was. And that's proven to be a really powerful tool to enable both lawful constitutional protests and even unlawful, but civil disobedience level. In general, my focus, my concern at the protests in Mountain View doesn't tend to be the protesters in Mountain View, but it's some type of conflict between different groups
Yeah.
or roadway safety issues associated to crowds. And so in that regard, we will really try to coordinate and see if there's any information related to this protest and counter protests. So we will look online. We'll look through open source information to see if there's chatter about folks that want to show up and cause harm to the protesters, or if protesters, if we thought that they were really concerning and may have a propensity based on previous behaviors for violence, and we would look and see if there's any indicators of that as well, within the kind of allowable confines of online search. We could also call them and ask them. It's probably the best gold standard.
Awesome, thank you. Then I have one more question. So City Council dissolved the Public Safety Advisory Board in 2024. And one of the points that they cited was just that public participation wasn't super robust. And that maybe the same objectives could be achieved through more flexible means of community engagement, like informal advisory groups. And I'm just curious, is that something that MVP has engaged in since it was dissolved?
Yeah, that's accurate. And also, there was a lot of conversation when the Public Safety Advisory Board was created, if it should have a timeline for sunsetting. And my understanding is that the discussion was to bring it back later and evaluate it. And that is what happened. Yes, the Mountain View Police Department has informal advisory committees that can meet without having to post an agenda online and without having to take minutes, and can have frank conversations with unagendized topics. There's a Faith Leaders Advisory Council. And that's a Chiefs Advisory Council that provides me with information related to the things that they're seeing, or that their perspectives related to law enforcement and public safety issues in our community. During the kind of the early COVID, we were collaborating on needs of community members and providing resources, asks, that sort of thing. We have shifted that at times when there was a real influx in unhoused folks, not necessarily in RVs, but literally just living on the streets, and coming together and building and distributing hygiene kits. That's been a big value, but also we've had many conversations related specifically to immigration enforcement, what the police department's status or approach would be, what it is, and what those steps we could take to share that information. That's been done at the Latino Community Advisory Committee, another one of these informal groups, but also at that Faith Leaders. Additionally, we talked about opioid crisis and providing, and we're able to provide Narcan, naloxone training to faith leaders so that they could have those resources at some of the churches, some of which overlap with homelessness services, but others just for their parishioners and youth. So there's just a lot of opportunities. It really, it does allow for the engagements to be very nimble. There's just trade-offs, pluses and minuses, but it's, we have not kind of lightened up on the gas from our community engagement or from trying to create opportunities to hear what's important to our community. One of the things that when we created that transparency dashboard was really to say, like, here is all this information about We've had thousands of people go online, log in and take a look at it, whether it's for their own crime data or to see our demographics or our uses of force. That's information we want to be accessible to our community. It's a way that we can be transparent, but not on an agenda, but transparent at the flip of a finger, if you will.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee member Lester. I'm now going to move this to public comment. Would any member of the public online like to provide comment on this item? If so, please click the raise hand button in Zoom or press *9 on the phone. So we have no one in person. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
We do, but it's, wow.
Oh.
Captain Mickey.
I got.
No, he has no.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Chief Canfield, for the amazing presentation. Thank you for all the service that you and your officers do for our city. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 6.2, fiscal year 2025-26 work plan. The committee will now receive a report on this item from Principal Management Analyst James. Action will be taken on this item.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee. Pardon me. You received in your agenda packet a memorandum and draft work plan, as well as an analysis of potential work plan projects that were discussed at the June 5th, 2025 meeting. As a reminder, the work plan development process for the HRC begins typically in May, and in this year in June for the HRC. Brainstorms ideas for potential work plan projects. Between that meeting and the next HRC meeting, staff analyzes those ideas and makes recommendations for inclusion in the potential work plan for the coming fiscal year, which will be discussed at this meeting, and then once recommended will be brought to council for approval in early September. As a reminder for the work plan process, the city council is as advisory bodies to limit new projects, keeping in mind limited staff capacity and sometimes limited advisory body capacity. At the previous meeting, the advisory body came up with 7 potential new work plan projects ideas. Staff is recommending one of those projects as proposed and a second project with amendments. There are 5 projects that are not recommended by staff. Overall, those projects are not recommended primarily for capacity issues. There are a couple that aren't within the HRC statutory scope, or don't focus on policy issues that the council has referred to the HRC outside of that statutory scope. I will offer to review the projects and the analysis. In case anyone has not had the time to review the staff report and analysis, would the committee like me to proceed with that?
Are we okay? Oh, committee member McDonald?
I looked at the list of people that the Know Your Rights workshop would reach out to. And it's interesting to me that tenants, seniors, workers, and immigrants are listed. Students aren't. And I think that that's really important, that we connect with schools and make sure that students know their rights so they can be helpful with their parents who perhaps don't understand their rights.
If I may, committee member McDonald, I'd love to discuss that when we get to the discussion section of the agenda item. Right now, I'm requesting, would the commission like me to review the list of projects and the analysis of those projects in case they had not had an opportunity to review the report? So is that something that you would like me to review?
Can we just do a show of hands if you would like that? I'm saying that.
Okay, thank you. So the recommended projects are Know Your Rights workshops. Speaking specifically to that project, the discussion that happened at the last meeting, committee members mentioned immigrant, tenant, worker, and senior rights. Immigrant rights will be addressed by grants provided to community benefit organizations through the Community for All grant program in this budgeting cycle. Tenants' rights, our workshops are provided regularly by our rental housing division, leaving workers and seniors' rights as great potential opportunities for collaboration. And the Senior Advisory Committee is interested in partnering with the HRC specifically on a seniors' rights workshop. So staff does recommend exploring those potential partnerships, which could include seniors or work. Additionally, the project that's recommended for inclusion with amendments is the LGBTQ Listening Forum. So in November 2024, the HRC hosted a very similar event with low turnout, and staff recommends doing some outreach or tabling at the next Mountain View Pride event as a committee, both to build those community connections and then also potentially to garner project or outreach ideas for the next work plan, specifically working with the LGBTQ plus community, which I think was the impetus behind that project suggestion. So those are the two projects that are recommended for addition to the fiscal year 25-26 work plan. Additionally, there are recommended changes to ongoing projects that were discussed at the previous meeting. So staff recommends the naming the following ongoing projects, which I believe were all recommendations from the committee at the previous meeting. Distributing HRC fiscal year, in this case 25-26 activity funding. Because for the past 10 years, the past 10 years to what I could find, the HRC activity funding has been used to support activities in the approved work plan rather than being distributed. Additionally, attending events by regional or peer HRCs because they are intermittent and inconsistent, and the community members will attend those as they come up, but they're not necessarily rising to a work plan level project. Similarly, joining a neighborhood association contact list to receive updates on neighborhood happenings or committing to do personal community outreach. Again, we're seen as part of the regular maintenance and growth of your own community networks. That is part of serving on the committee. And then finally, acting as a resource for human relations related needs for any city department and community efforts as needed is included in the committee's establishing resolution. And so it's redundant to a work that.
Mhm.
There are two more changes that are recommended by staff. First, it is receiving the Mountain View Police Department's annual report. And I'll be moving to the HRC's work plan after the dissolution of the PSAP as happened tonight. That will be an annual item. And then finally, the HRC has been invited to attend a meeting of the Youth Advisory Committee to discuss the HRC's role and get feedback on potential projects. And this has been included in the work plan under item B, which is respond to city council referrals and or inquiries from other advisory bodies regarding topics of mutual interest. So speaking to committee members, McDonald's comment earlier, if there's an interest in Know Your Rights workshops with youth, if the HRC is willing to host and drive that event with input from the Youth Advisory Committee, that might be an option. The Youth Advisory Committee does not have capacity to take on new projects themselves. But that might be an opportunity for collaboration or partnership if the committee is interested. So with that, I would like to again refer you to attachment 1, the potential draft recommended work plan to facilitate your discussion today.
Thank you, Laurel. All right, I will now open it to the committee for questions. Committee member
I
McDonald.
hope that the outreach includes the local ACLU group and also the League of Women Voters. Because certainly they are both actively working in these areas and could be, could offer volunteers to help with it. And also give some feedback as to what they've come across as they've worked on these same issues.
Thank you, committee member McDonald. So, and please, Laurel, please correct me if I'm wrong. We would have to approve the staff recommendation and then have the ad hoc committee be formed for then to further discuss that. So that could be an opportunity to bring that up in the ad hoc committee portion. Should we, as a committee, approve the staff recommendation? Is that correct? All right, perfect. Any other questions from the committee?
I have a comment on the, or I guess suggestion, discussion, on the LGBTQ plus listening forum. I really like the idea of pivoting to participation in Mountain View Pride. I think it's awesome, and Mountain View's gonna have another Pride Festival, which is great that they're doing that. Yes, we should definitely be involved. I'm wondering if, so the listening forum, I understand it was not super well attended and perhaps not, the best bang for a buck in terms of staff and our time resources. I'm wondering if we should not, sorry, I'm having a hard time phrasing this. I don't know if we should give up on it, because I remember when I was talking to the Santa Clara County office staff, they were saying that part of their goals is to kind of do one of these events for all the cities in the county. And, like, they're trying to accomplish their goals, and I would like us to be a helpful partner for that. And frankly, it kind of seemed like it wasn't that much effort for us to put it on. I realized that no event is zero effort, and our staff time and our time is very valuable. But they kind of set everything up and talked about it, and they were taking notes to the county level. I think or at least they said they were. I think one potential change is maybe we use the participation in the Pride Festival to promote an upcoming listening forum, because I think there's a big difference between being visible at a Pride Festival and having people get to know that we're here, and also providing a forum for prolonged discussion. I think that those are
True.
two important but distinct areas of advocacy. So, yeah.
I'm gonna +1 on that. It was exactly what I was gonna say, but the other thing I wanna make sure, if we don't do some type of listening forum, we definitely wanna have something, if we have a table, we wanna have something to follow up.
Yeah.
Some type of action, some type of whatever it is, where we're engaging with them. And I do believe that doing it after Pride Month is just as important.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I always hear from the community is everyone only focuses on Pride Month. So if we do something after Pride Month to follow up, it would actually hold a little more weight. And if we tried to schedule something during Pride Month, we may conflict with so many other things as well.
I have a question, Laurel. Is staff's recommendation that for the moment to do this tabling opportunity to then build up to an eventual listening forum? Or?
Thank you for the question, Chair. So staff's recommendation is to do this tabling event and participate in the Pride Festival to plan an event based on the conversations and input that you get there. And it's, it could be a listening forum. It could be something, a Know Your Rights workshop, if that's what people are saying in the conversations that you have with them, or however you decide to get input with them. And the implication there is that there could potentially be an LGBTQ focused event that's a placeholder item in your next work plan, which would be in following up. Follow up after the Pride event tabling and would take place outside potentially.
So this is just an effort to supplement future action items, right? Not a complete elimination of a listening forum or any other things that can stem from a Pride.
No, it's certainly not to say never hold an LGBTQ plus event. It's a recommendation to become involved in Mountain View Pride as the first step towards identifying what the event to serve the LGBTQ plus community might be.
Thank you for the clarification.
And I follow up on that, and that's what I understood as well. But I think that if we don't have anything substantial to show at the event, it's basically falling on deaf ears. We have to have something for them to come to attend, because that's where the biggest audience is gonna be. So even if it doesn't work out where we only get the same amount of people, we still impact this community. Cause I actually ran into a couple of people from the people that went to the event later on randomly, and it impacted them. So I'd rather have an event where I help one person than not help anyone at all by not having it.
I guess to,
So this is why I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we still have to have something to show and have it in a work plan and have us working on it in addition to tabling. Because we have that date set up so that when we're there, we have our flyer, we're having this event, whatever we decide it is, whatever that subcommittee decides what it is, it's in stone.
Yeah.
So they say, hey, after Pride Month, come to our XYZ. If you're not coming, share the word. Because the low attendance is about no one knows about it. Because I talked to people at the Pride event. Did you know we had a listing event? Oh my God, no, I would have gone. So they don't know they can't go. And that's where we're gonna get that audience is at Pride. Sorry. Lon.
Committee Member Sylvester?
Hearing, I almost want to say two sides. One is saying that Pride would potentially kick off an event that would have to be in the next work plan year by design. I don't know how much of what Commissioner Webb is saying could be pulled into this work plan, but maybe an idea for something concrete at the table, instead of just saying, go to the table and talk to people, is maybe having some kind of survey, like what interests you most in a future event, or something that engages the public more. So they have a teaser that maybe something is coming up and they feel they have a little bit of a hand in helping design it in a way that's more formal than I talked to some people and I don't know what they did with that.
So the reason why I'm saying we have to have something, because then it'll be another year.
Yeah.
If we say, oh, we got the idea from the survey, now we're gonna do it, but then we still have to go out and find that audience again. And the
Right.
next time we're gonna see them is in 2027. So we'll end up, it's always like we're chasing our tail constantly. Get the audience,
It is the nature of work plans
yeah.
because of the fiscal year and how they.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, if we try and we already know how to do it, we already have the community, at least a little bit of a mailing list. We have the county, which, they're already ready for us to do this. We're gonna help them reach their goal, and it's still accessing the community that we already know, who will also tell people that they know. Right, so I just don't want to get rid of not having something in our work plan, and we should work towards it, whomever it is on the subcommittee. I don't care what it is, but I think it's important to keep this momentum going, because it did affect these people living here from that community.
Committee Member Lesser?
I was just gonna say and I wasn't here last year, but maybe there are ways that we can explore kind of increasing our outreach beyond just, hoping that tell your friends, maybe we have very engaged elected officials in the area, and I don't know what the protocol is in terms of whether they can share events that we're hosting. But since, I think it was extremely impactful that Mountain View had its first Pride, and I would make the argument that part of that was born from actions taken by committee members, through engaging with stuff like the listening forum, and just to continue the track, hopefully in a direction where the city continues to be engaged on LGBTQ+ issues. I would not want to see it let go, but yeah, I don't know.
Vice Chair?
I think I'm appreciating the discussion and, sorry, brain, long day. One, I really like the idea of having the idea from Commissioner Sylvester of having soliciting feedback at our Pride tabling of what kind of events would you like to see? Cause I think that's an area that we're lacking in, is just kind of creative ideas and like, hey, what do you want? I also agree with Commissioner Webb's concern about pushing things out to the next work plan. What I was wondering is, could we ask staff or Laurel, could we ask you to please maybe reach out to the county and say, like, are they planning on doing another series of listening events? Cause I think on one hand, yes, the listening event is not like the most amazing, creative, high draw event, but it's relatively easy for us. And I don't mean easy as in it just is nothing, because I know it's a lot of work. Every event is a lot of work. But at least from my perspective, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like the county kind of had prepared the content and managed the event mostly. And I feel like the easiest way for us to, because I feel strongly that it's important for us to have an event to promote at the Pride Festival. I feel strongly about that. And I think that if the county is already planning on doing a series of listening sessions, maybe we could just say, hey, could we schedule one for sometime after Mountain View Pride? And just kind of try and do that and maybe do a more creative, different style of event next year when we have more feedback from our Pride tabling.
Yes,
So,
with your survey
so,
that you're gonna design.
Nope.
so,
Maybe.
Laurel, do you have a response to that, or?
So yes, I can answer that question. The county did reach out to us about holding a listening forum and did provide the content and materials. They have not reached out about a second listening forum, and by this time last year they had.
Oh, really? Okay,
So I'm
that's a good
happy
sign.
to follow up, but my guess is that it was a thing they were doing within that calendar year, because that's what they were interested in doing, was hitting every jurisdiction within the calendar year. I haven't been in contact with them since I was out. But I can follow up with them. I would. Yes.
I will definitely get to you. Well.
I just wanted to, the whole point of their listening forum was kind of, I don't want to say it was one time, but the whole point was to hit every city in the county, every jurisdiction, and write a report on that. It was
Oh.
not an ongoing project.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, sorry, okay.
So
I was
I
missing
wouldn't
that.
want to get my
was
hopes
forgetting
too
about that.
high up on that. I think they would like to partner with us again. I talked to Sarah at the county at Pride. She wants to maybe take a bigger role in Pride. So they're not disinterested in Mountain View with that project, I think was,
Okay,
because it was driving a report that was super important, was gonna take a long time to generate.
that's a helpful reminder.
So I do have a couple of comments, I guess, on the conversation itself, and then a question for you, Laurel. So first, I think I hear what the committee members are saying, and I agree. And also, I think there's even in conversation now, a lot of the onus we're placing on another entity. And I think the real question we should be asking ourselves as a committee is, what led to such a low attendance, even if this isn't impactful to our community? And I think with the formation or how it's written right now, and I'll get to my question for that one, is I think there does need to be with this ad hoc committee a reflectionary period of what led to that.
Yeah.
Why are we so dependent on another entity to do the outreach for us, and where we need to fill in those gaps? Now, I do agree with committee member Webb on when the ad hoc committee forms, there should be enticing or research portion of like what is the need of the community. That way it is community led, not top down HRC saying this is what the community needs. Is there a way so my first question is, does the tabling opportunity and the listening forum have to be two distinct or two separate work items? Or can it be conjoined, as in there is the tabling opportunity and not leaving out the opportunity for a listening forum?
I am comfortable as staff. So let me provide context for this statement. When we bring the council advisory body work plans to council for adoption in September, there's a section of the staff report that asked staff, when we're compiling everything, we asked staff, are there any projects that are not recommended by staff or that would take extraordinary resources or resources beyond the staff recommendation? The answer is usually no. I am comfortable without reservation recommending to council from this. If this committee were to recommend it, I would not add a comment on the report. If that project number 5, instead of tabling at Mountain View Arts Pride and a typo, if it's was stated to explore hosting an LGBTQ event based on feedback from attendance at Mountain View Pride. Now, what that would allow is a balance between these two. It would allow the ad hoc committee to begin work prior to that Pride event. So there could be a venue, there could be a date, there could be a general concept that could be further informed by the conversation at the Pride event, because the challenge, as one of you noted, is that if we move it to the next year's work plan, it's not really allowed for the committee to work on it until it's approved by council. That creates a delay. However, having that placeholder means that the event would take place in the next fiscal year, but keeping in mind that Pride is 1 month before the end of the fiscal, Pride month is 1 month before the end of the fiscal year. Which allows for the committee to work on it, but also to balance the work plan a little bit, so we're not trying to shove a bunch of events in this fiscal year. If that's comfortable with the committee, that's something that I'm comfortable recommending, as we have in the past, if the ad hoc committee is convened following the completion of a project that we identify on the work plan card. If that's amenable to the commission, the committee, I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to approach it that balances both the concerns of capacity and community input with the concerns about the timeliness of holding an event and staying connected to the community.
Thank you for that. Is that amendable to this committee, that proposal?
I like it. At least I think I understand it.
I'm not sure I do either.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the highlighting that that we need to care about fiscal year, not end of the year. Cause I was like, oh, like, June, that's not that, there's like several months, but no,
Right.
we would be trying to cram it into literally the next month, and a lot of people are on vacation and such, so. I think that having an event after Pride kind of requires that it goes into the next fiscal year, and it sounds like for just how kind of the bureaucratic part of it, it sounds like what you're suggesting is kind of required for us to be able to work on it prior to July of next year.
If I may, just to clarify what I said, we would be changing project 5 on the recommended work plan to say, table at Mountain View Pride to get input for an LGBTQ, or explore hosting an LGBTQ plus event based on input received at Mountain View Pride, or, community input. And so the idea would be that the ad hoc committee could convene in probably the spring, or maybe even a little earlier of that year, have some plans in place, have a venue, and then tabling could be a method of outreach, potentially of some input to the content of that event if the ad hoc committee created an opportunity for there to be some flexibility.
I like that.
Yeah.
But I want the committee to start even earlier in their outreach to reach that community. Because I think that's the important part.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Even earlier than Pride, or even earlier than spring?
Even earlier in spring. And it's not, and I'm not saying that it's a very labor intensive. But even if we're developing some type of outreach, because I was thinking, like, Google has a Pride group,
Mhm.
right? So that way, a definitely place to reach out and start having conversations with some of the bigger companies around here that have those groups. Because they're planning their Pride stuff, so they can also promote as well for the committee, but we also want to get the feedback from them on what they would like to see, because those are big organizations within our area.
Can I make a suggestion? I think logistically, based on when we expect to see a completed report from our civic participation ad hoc committee, which has the potential to run over, even though the committee is working very hard. And based on posting potentially multiple Know Your Rights workshops, the administration of multiple ad hoc committees, especially with events or final work products adjacent to each other, requires a lot of staff capacity. I would feel comfortable recommending convening the group in spring. However, that does not preclude the committee from reaching out and doing community engagement work prior to the creation of the ad hoc committee, or even doing so when there is no work plan project related to it. So although we're removing your own outreach and work on your own network from the work plan, it certainly still is within the scope of every committee member to be cultivating those relationships and talking. So with that, I would recommend, as staff, I feel comfortable recommending from a capacity perspective that the ad hoc committee convene in spring. We can do like early spring. Okay.
So any further questions from the committee or clarifying questions on any of the work items aside from item 5? Okay, seeing none and right now I open the floor to the public for public comment. If there are attendees, seeing none in person, and is there any virtually? No. Okay, so we'll move on. I will entertain a motion for this item.
Would you like me to?
I can try. It would be good.
You can revert to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So the motion would be for the staff recommendation with the change to project 5 to say explore hosting an LGBTQ plus community event with input from the community from attendance at Mountain View Pride. The key milestones would be to convene the task force, the ad hoc committee in early spring 2026, attend Pride in June 2026, and then host the event in a subsequent month.
Okay.
Be determined by the ad hoc committee.
So moved.
Okay, we got a second from committee member Lester. Oh, no, first from committee member
Second.
Lester, second from committee member Sylvester. Will we do a roll call vote or all right, all those in favor say aye. Okay, so enthusiastic. Seeing no oppositions or
Joe voted.
Joan, you voted right?
Yes.
Yeah, aye. All right,
Everybody
perfect.
was-
All right, it is so moved. Thank you, committee members, for that discussion. Moving on to item 6.2, fiscal year 2025 to 2026, meeting schedule. The commission will now receive a report on this item from principal at management analyst James. Action will be taken on this item.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, committee members. On December 17, 2024, the council approved a resolution revising council policy K2, which covers council advisory bodies and states that each council advisory body, must formally adopt an annual meeting schedule. This report contains a proposed meeting schedule. And it's intended to serve as a calendar of regularly scheduled meetings through the end of fiscal year 2025-26 on June 30th, 2026. Scheduled meetings may be canceled if there are no new business items at the discretion of the chair with advisement from the staff liaison. And the proposed meeting schedule for fiscal year 25-26 is the typical HRC schedule of the first Thursday in each month from September through June, with the exceptions of October 2025, which is the first Thursday in the first Thursday in October 2025 is Rosh Hashanah, a Jewish high holy day. And then the first Thursday in January 2026 is New Year's Day. So those are not included in the proposed schedule. Because the committee rather is meeting on September 4th, we will be meeting prior to council approval of advisory body work plans. However, as we have had in the past, we can have discussions about who would be interested in participating on those work plans, work plan ad hoc committees, which are actually appointed at the first of the so we don't need to have a meeting to appoint folks to them. Additionally, at that September 4th meeting, we have an agenda item potentially to pass bylaws, so there would be substantive agenda items for that meeting, so that's why it's recommended to be kept. With that, hand it back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. I open it to the committee for questions. Okay, see.
Wait,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Vice Chair?
Maybe, I just don't think I was processing that. We need to reschedule the meeting in October, or we're canceling it, or?
Yes,
Okay, right,
no,
so-
we don't have it yet.
right, sorry. Okay. And then we are canceling January?
There will be no January meeting because that falls on New Year's Day.
Got it, okay.
Would you repeat
Thank you.
that because it was a little confusing.
Yeah, so Vice Chair Chadwell was asking on January 2026, which if we adopt this, we wouldn't be having a meeting on that month, nor would we be having a meeting on this October 2025, because it would be the high holiday Rosh Hashanah,
It would be,
the Jewish high holiday.
Jewish holiday.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah. Okay. All right. I open to the floor for the public comment. If there are any attendees, seeing none present and none being online, I will move to commission discussion. Is there a motion to approve staff recommendations?
So moved.
Thank you, Committee Member Sylvester.
Second.
Second by Committee Member Webb. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Committee Member McDonald, are you in favor of moving forward with staff recommendation? Okay, perfect. All right, and so that's all approved. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item 7, committee staff comments, questions, and committee reports. No discussion or action will be taken on any questions raised by the committee at this time. State law prohibits the committee from discussing or acting on substantive non-agenda items. I open the floor for the committee, and then we'll turn it over to staff.
No one has anything to say? You know, so,
Long week.
I have one.
Okay, Committee Member Webb.
Event that's coming up. The Japanese Mountain View Buddhist Temple is having their Oban Festival this weekend.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so I encourage people to support that event. I will probably be gone Saturday night, but yeah, let's see if we can promote it a little bit. And that's another part of our community that we can reach out to. And this is why we need T-shirts. Keep telling you.
Then it comes. Thank you, Committee Member Webb.
Is one, this is why I say this. This is why I say this, because of me going to this festival, I stand out. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna stand out, I'm gonna stand out for a reason.
If you make.
Starting to feel like a non-agendized item.
So thank you.
That's what I'm saying. It's comments, and not, no action is gonna be taken, but it's, I'm continue to say it until it gets, till there's an action on it.
Thank you.
I will wear a t-shirt.
Thank you, Committee Member Webb.
It's not coming out of my pocket.
Fair enough.
Any other announcement from a committee member before we move to item 8?
So,
Or to,
comments, concerns, confessions?
I turn it over to Principal Analyst Laurel.
Thank you,
Have
Chair.
my hand up if I have.
Yeah, right?
Look here, smart Alec, I'm your ride home.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you,
Oh,
committee
boy.
members. I only have
Spaced.
one announcement, which is to remind those of you that have not yet completed your ethics training, which is administered online through a link that's emailed to you, to please do so. If you're not sure if you have, please talk to me because I know who hasn't. But I will share that now. And that is a requirement of your service on the committee. If you do not complete ethics training, you are not eligible for reimbursement for any conferences or travel that you attend or participate in through commission business or committee business. More importantly, perhaps to this group, you are not eligible for the Shoreline Ticket Program if you do not complete your ethics training.
Concerts suck.
Oh.
We're not gonna, all right. that's out of
Super
line.
spicy.
No, out of line,
That-
out of line.
I went down that list and it was
Yeah,
horrible.
out of line.
Tickets to Weird
All
Al.
right.
Thank you.
All right, committee members.
Committee members.
All right.
Where's the gavel?
Yeah, all right, thank you so much, Laurel,
Slander.
for
We
your.
have to find something to protest about.
All right, I'm gonna move on to item 8, adjournment. Adjourn for the next regular meeting of the Human Relations Committee scheduled for September 4th, 2025 at 6:30 PM in the Plaza, please y'all, Plaza Conference Room at Mountain View City Hall and virtually on Zoom. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.